Hello and welcome to Let's Talk Sports. I am Ralph Labella.
And I'm Ron Sen. First, a number for you, 244. Well, 244 is how many NFL draftees out of 256 were multi-sport athletes growing up. So for all of you players out there who think you have to be devoted to one sport, play that to the exclusivity of everything else, that's not the case for guys who are playing at the highest level of sport.
Yeah, you know, we both feel the same way. You want them when the season ends. We have our girls in basketball. You want them to go to another sport, enjoy the other sport. Takes the pressure off you. As you know, if you're playing one sport, imagine a seventh grader playing one sport, and she's really into that one sport, and things aren't going right. Mentally, that's really got to affect them. But when they know they have another sport, they can get away from that sport, go to the other sport, then come back in the right frame of mind. So I think it's huge that players play more than one sport. I mean, when you get up, maybe a senior in high school and you're really good, that's one thing.
I think if you play basketball, for instance, all year round, you have a lot higher chance of getting hurt too. If you're playing one sport, you're developing a certain set of muscles, higher risk for ACL injuries.
Especially females.
Right.
Females with the ACLs in basketball. But that's the way I look at it. I've liked, well, for 15 years, when our season ends in March, I like the girls to take off. You know, they don't all because they want to keep playing, but I like the girls to take off from the sport for at least 2 months and then come back. And I'm telling you, I tell the parents, they're better players when they come back after 2 months off. And you really see that. I mean, they're mature in number one, and they're coming back in the right frame of mind. They can't wait to play again. They've had 2 months off. But you see them more and more play AAU now, which, you know, I mean, that's fine, but I still like it when they take the 2 months off.
Well, speaking of numbers, we talked about before, Chris Bryant, the Cubs phenom, Scott Boras, the mouth breather, was crazed that the Cubs didn't keep him from the beginning of the season. They left him in the minors for a while so that he didn't have eligibility and potentially he won't be a free agent as quickly. Well, Bryant came up to the majors and he's had 67 official at-bats and some walks. And the spring training home run champion who had 10 homers, I think, in the spring, had none so far. No homers in 67 at-bats. He's drawn a lot of walks. They're pitching him tough. And, you know, obviously he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of potential. He's 23 years old, but he's got 5 less home runs than Mookie Betts.
Yeah, and I saw that he had 4 walks in one game last week. I think it was 4 walks.
Well, Lackey fanned him 3 times today.
Did he?
Right. So
how's he hitting though? What's his average?
It's around 275,
that's
something
not
like
bad.
that. So his on-base slugging percentage is around 800. So he's going to be a good player, but you know, cool your jets, Scott. Obviously, he's going to be a great player, or at least a solid player, but so far, not as advertised. Now, Carol Dweck is an author from Stanford who wrote the book Mindset, and I want to talk a little bit about praise and criticism. She wrote and did studies showing that players or students do much better if they're praised for their effort, not for their skill. In other words, they're much more willing to go out of their comfort zone, to take a chance, and to possibly fail. Whereas the player who's good is less likely to take chances because she doesn't want to be seen as failing. And really, to develop in any sport, you have to have failure. For example, they say that an Olympic gold medal figure skater is someone who's willing to fall down 20,000 times en route to the gold.
Yeah, you see that all the time. I mean, I remember talking to one of my parents, you know, a 7th grade team. We were playing in a playoff game, and she had a couple of turnovers. But so I go to him, you know, I looked right at him, and I said, "How can you get upset at her? Every second she's on the court, she gives everything she has." And I'll tell you, when you do that, you know, it really helps because the coach doesn't get on you as much because he knows you're giving everything you have. You're listening. I mean, and I like we tell our players, as long as you know you gave 100% and you're committed to the team, that's all you have to worry about. But you have players out there that are really working hard. You know, and all right, this one conversation I had, you can't get on her. You just can't.
Well, every player is going to make mistakes. Every possible mistake that a kid has made, except shooting in the wrong basket, I have done playing basketball. And you know, turnovers, throwing the ball away, fumbling the ball, making a bad pass, taking a bad shot, missing a key free throw, that's part of the game. Happens to everybody.
Well, that's how you learn. Again, when I tell my players, you have to go through the experiences to get better. So our point guards, I want them penetrating to the basket. If they have an opening, and if they dribble it off their knee, they dribble off their knee. But the only way they're going to get better is to go through those experiences. It's like you said earlier, the kids that don't want to go, that are afraid to make mistakes, they don't improve as well as the other players do.
Right. So one saying is that you have to shout praise and whisper criticism. And one of the things I regret from this past season, I particularly yelled at the kids one time when they really didn't know what to do, but it was more my fault that they didn't know what to do. I told them what to do, but they didn't translate that into being able to do it because they didn't understand what I wanted them to do. So that really was on me. So it's important that you can't ask a player to do what they can't do or what you haven't emphasized and taught them. It's not, it's easy to get upset, but it's not really going to help at the end of the day. Writer Jim Rohn has a saying, we all either suffer the pain of discipline or the pain of regret. And that's probably the theme for the week. And we'll talk a little bit about Deflate-Gate. Couldn't find my football, so I was going to bring a pancake football, but the big news, obviously, is the Ted Wells report with the legal language, more probable than not, which that's kind of civil trial talk, not criminal. And I don't know what the Patriots did, and I don't know that they're culpable or not. Jeff Howe, in his article in the Herald this morning, said on page 228, kind of buried in there of the report, it says, we don't have adequate evidence to say with certainty that the Patriots did anything wrong. Well, if you don't, then how can you say that they probably did something wrong?
But what's changed to me? I'd like to know what the size of the balls were during the game. Someone said that 12 out of 13, and then I hear 2 out of 13 were deflated. I don't know what it is. I'd like to know that.
Well, I think it was 11 out of 12, but they also said
deflated?
that of the Colts balls that were measured, 3 of the 4 were under inflated also. So certainly from a scientific standpoint, 3 out of 4 versus 11 out of 12 isn't statistically significant. And it seems like the NFL had an agenda. Obviously, we talked about, was it a sting? Right.
It was a sting operation. I mean, what they should have done I believe it went from Baltimore to Indianapolis. I think Harbaugh is the one who started this. They lost that tough game to the Pats. Indianapolis now, they complain, but instead of going to the Patriots and saying, listen, Indianapolis is complaining that the balls are under 12.5. Make sure that they're fine for the game. Instead of doing that, they don't even tell the Patriots anything. And it's a sting operation as far as I'm concerned. And then the Patriots, it comes out just before the Super Bowl. And how are they supposed to handle it? Say Brady, which I guess is correct, that he fooled around with the balls. He wanted a 12.5 or a little less. All right? And if it goes a little less, that's illegal. But all the quarterbacks do something with the balls. They scuff them. They do something. They want their balls, the ones that feel comfortable in their hands. So Brady, probably for years, has been going in that direction. Okay, I want a ball that feels comfortable. Right? So say sometimes it goes under 12.5. He knows it's illegal, but everybody else is doing it, so he says, all right, I'm going to go with this. Just like people driving or whatever.
Well,
then he gets caught. What is he going to do then? Because
the other thing that they could do, which I don't know if they do it or not, is they put it in a dryer before, a clothes dryer. It's warm up the balls, so they have a hot ball that's 12.5, and then the ball cools off, it goes down.
But let's say that he liked it even less than 12.5. Okay, say he liked the handle of the ball. Although he threw it better when it was the regular size. Like the second half of the Indianapolis game and in the Seattle game, he threw the ball better than he ever has with the ball,
Well, I think
legal.
Sports Science had a program where they looked at deflated ball versus inflated ball, and they said you can't throw it as far because it doesn't have as much mass. So it's not an advantage.
Well, the ball goes a lot straighter, with less spin on it, right? It goes straighter when it's, like Rodgers likes it over 13.5 because he knows the ball goes through the air a lot easier and faster, and it stays straight. It's easy to catch. But say Brady was doing that. Big deal. Big deal, because that's the way the ball felt correcting his hand. But again, it was illegal in a way. But how many things? What about spitballs? What about scuffing a baseball? What do they do with those people? They check the ball. They'll throw them out. Maybe they'll throw them out of that game. I mean, they don't blow it up like they're blowing this up. It's because it's the Patriots. If it was some other team like Tampa Bay, you wouldn't even hear about it.
Well, the other thing is one of the issues they said is Brady wouldn't surrender his cell phone. We cannot know what's on his cell phone, but you can guess that there's probably phone numbers for all kinds of celebrities, what kind of pictures, other texts that he's made, and all of us have probably said something unflattering in a text message or an email that's our private business that's not out there for public consumption.
Brady's supposed to be speaking today at Salem State. I don't know if they're going to ask him. Gray's going to be there. I don't know if they're going to be asking him questions about this. The people are going to want to know. Maybe he will answer some questions. But when people say the worst thing he did was when he lied before what is he going to say? Yeah, I did it so he can get suspended for the Super Bowl? He thinks it's a joke. He doesn't think it's a big deal, which most people don't. Most people in New England don't think it's a big deal. They don't want him lying. But in that situation, what else is he going to say? And that's it. They blow everything out of proportion. They have everything, the press. It's unbelievable.
Well, obviously, this is not going to go away in the near future. And the next question is, will Brady get fined? Will he get suspended? If so, for how long? Does that mean he's going to miss the opening day of the season, or will there be some kind of phony baloney? Oh, he's going to appeal his suspension and be able to play the first game because it's the first game of the NFL season, and the Thursday night game is not going to be the same draw with Jimmy Garoppolo as the quarterback.
Well, you know what this is going to do? They're going to win the Super Bowl again.
Yeah, they're going to be better than ever.
They're going to win the Super Bowl again. That offense at the end of the season, they were playing better than they ever had, even when they were undefeated that year going into the Super Bowl. The last 3 games, every big pass he completed. And I'm looking for them to come back. If they're healthy, no one's going to stop that team. I'll tell you that.
Well, another issue that comes up is, do you want to praise someone that may not be so praiseworthy? Personally, I don't see a big problem. Probably, growing up, Sonny Lane, if you talk to him about a player on one of his players, no matter who the player is, you'd think that player was the best player since sliced bread. The kid plays harder than anybody else, good skills, super committed. And everybody likes to hear good things. So there's no advantage to not praising someone. And ultimately, the more praise that you heap on a team or a player, it really reflects to you, not detracting from you in any way.
No, you always try to do that. I know you're very positive. He just has a tremendous reputation, Sonny. Everybody who played for him loved playing for him. He helped out the high school too, Melrose High School, girls team.
Yeah,
he scouted for them.
Outstanding scout, outstanding coach. He's a member of the Hall of Fame in numerous communities. Stoneham, where he grew up, Wakefield. He's the Massachusetts Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame, the New England Basketball Coaches Hall of Fame. But he really had a lot to show. He won state championship as a coach. I've had a nice career as an athletic director here, and really, I really feel close to him even now, many years later, still stay in contact. Now, speaking of the pain of discipline and the pain of regret, this week was the big Mayweather-Pacquiao fight. Thank goodness I didn't pay for it. Pretty much everyone who said they watched the fight said it was terrible.
Well, what did we say? What did we say before at the last show? I said it's going to be a joke. I said Mayweather's going to tie him up every chance he gets. When they could stand in there and go fist to fist, it's not going to happen. And it's a shame because all the people. That could have really helped boxing, but it didn't help boxing at all. But no, it makes me laugh. The people that paid all that big money to watch that, they didn't know it was coming. Especially the so-called boxing experts. They know exactly what was going to happen. It wasn't going to be Hagler and Hearns. That's what you know what I predicted? I said it's going to be more like Hagler and then Leonard when they were both old. Hagler quit after that fight because he thought he won it, but it was a terrible, terrible fight. They weren't, Leonard just stayed away from him, came in and jabbed him at the end of the rounds to win the round or tie the round. But I told everybody, that's the way the fight's going to go. And that's the exact way it went. From everybody, I didn't watch it.
Well, no, and I guess I'm philosophically not aligned with boxing because in all these other sports, they're trying to do everything they can to prevent concussions. And in boxing, the whole idea of the sport is to give the other guy a concussion. So
But no,
that doesn't make any sense.
no, another thing I heard too, I heard that Brady is a fan of Mayweather. I think that's one
Right.
of the main reasons why he went. He was in the second row too, you know. And I'm saying to myself, when people put players like, you know, a lot of these younger kids see Brady, 3 MVPs, winning 4 Super Bowls, you know, they put him up on a pedestal. And, you know, you don't know about these guys. You really don't. I mean, from what, you know, the way he's led his life, I mean, he's great on camera, but you know what, you know, when he was
Sure.
with Moynihan and all that, and what happened there. But I mean, you know, who knows about him? But to follow a guy like Mayweather, to go out there,
Well,
you know, making it a big deal.
Right. Nobody contests the fact that Mayweather has a major problem with violence against women. And, you know, as a sports fan, there's no way you can support that in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, and then, you know, there's lawyers I really respect up in Haverhill, really respect, very good lawyers. Big Mayweather fans. You know, big Mayweather fans. They were going to go, one was going on vacation, but he was going to make sure he watched it. He was taking his wife for her birthday, I think her 40th birthday down in Florida. And he was going to go to Vegas, but he went to Florida, but he was going to watch it, and he loves Mayweather. He says he's a great boxer. Another lawyer that I talked to, I said, how can you love this guy? 5 times he's been charged with assault and battery domestics. Did time on it.
Well, we have the NFL draft to review, and this was, talk about bad behavior. Obviously, there's not uniform opinion about Jameis Winston. Because the guy didn't get brought up on charges for sexual assault, he's a choir boy. Well, the legal system didn't feel that he needed to be brought up on charges. Well, that doesn't mean he was innocent. It just means they didn't have enough evidence.
Well, they didn't have witnesses.
Right. And, you know, we know from his other behavior, from, you know, shoplifting crab legs to crude statements in public to, well, even after the draft, he gets drafted, and once he put up that night a picture of crab legs on Instagram, you know, so he makes a big joke like, oh, I'm that #1 NFL draft choice, so I'm going out for crab legs. After I was accused of shoplifting crab legs, it's talk about not getting it.
And he's the #1 pick too. That's amazing when you really think about it. That's how much they want to improve these teams. I mean, they could have drafted other players.
Well, supposedly, Lovie Smith and the Tampa staff brought him down before the draft. They showed him all kinds of protections, hot reads, their offensive system. Then they took him out to eat or something like that, brought him back, tested them all, and he got everything. He knew who was supposed to be where, what kind of protection, etc. So that's all that matters. He's a football savant. But he's the face of your franchise. And the question becomes, who do you want to be the face of your franchise? When quarterbacks have been drafted 1-2, like Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, or Myra and Bledsoe, there's always been one who made it and one who blew up. And I'd rather take my chances with Mariota or whatever. What did Goodell? I don't even know what Goodell called him when he got up there, mush mouth. But I'd rather take my chances with Marcus Mariota than with Jameis Winston. Now, that wasn't the only one. La'el Collins was his.
Dallas tried to sign him.
Supposedly
today.
Dallas signed him. The guy's girlfriend showed up shot. The pregnant girlfriend shows up shot before the draft. Nobody drafts the guy. He supposedly wasn't a suspect. Now, we don't know the circumstances. Maybe he's going to be a terrific player. Maybe he's just totally innocent through the whole thing. But boy, in the wake of the Aaron Hernandez issues, you just wonder how guys who have such tainted character, reputation anyway, as long as you can play football, that's all that matters.
They had to talk to the police, though. I mean,
I'm sure they
had
did.
to talk to the police. He could not have been involved. There's no way they would have signed him. How much money did he lose, too?
Oh, well, he would have been.
What if he's innocent?
He
Look at
would
the
have had at
money.
least $5 million for signing bonus in the top 10, whereas now he's going to get $450 to $500 a year for 3 years. We'll be right back. Welcome back. Despite Deflate-Gate, despite Revis and Browner leaving, despite Denner leaving, the Patriots are still the preseason #1 in NFL.com's rankings. Dennard, 7th-round draft choice, who had his own run-ins with the law, played some pretty good football during his rookie season, and then he tailed off, as so many Patriots defensive backs seemed to in the second year, and was let go, I think, for salary cap reasons.
Yeah, the note I read too is the players didn't like him. They didn't
really?
think he worked hard enough to come back. So that was a number of players. So, I mean, I'm glad he's gone now. I mean, you know, Ron, the way I look at it, you know, Butler was not I mean, he's going to be real good. Like, you know, I saw him all year. He's very good. His rating was higher than Revis's rating on passes in his direction. Fletcher, who they got from Philly, his rating was right there with Revis's rating per pass. You know, Arrington was a little lower. But when you look at it, so you start off with Butler and Fletcher, a cornerback. You have Arrington at slot, covering the slot receivers. Even though I wasn't crazy about Arrington, he had a very good year. He got burnt in the Super Bowl, you know, a couple of bad plays in the Super Bowl. But right there at cornerback, you're okay. This young guy they got from Marshall, they say he runs a 40 in a 4.3 or something. So, I mean, he's quick, and they say he's aggressive, but why did he stay for the 6th or 7th round? That's when they got him. And at safety, they get, well, I don't know what they were doing with Daniels. What do you think, second pick?
Oh,
Richards.
You know, I don't want to believe that they're worried about special teams in the second round. Maybe they think that they can coach him up and that he's a long-term replacement for Chung. I don't know. There always seems to be the second-round picks that go astray. Tavon Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, just think. Say they got a cornerback in the second round. You know, say the top cornerback that was still out there. If they got him in the second round, and they got him, Richards, in the 5th round instead of taking the snapper from Indianapolis,
Navy.
From Navy. I mean, if they did that, then it would have been an unbelievable draft. Because when you look at the linemen they got with Brown and those other two defensive ends, and then the 2 offensive linemen they got that are rated good from where they got them.
Yeah, well, obviously you think that they realize they're not going to have this skill at cornerback, so they're trying to sell out for pass rush. Now, obviously, neither of us probably remembers any of the New York Giants secondary members when the Giants won the Super Bowl against the Patriots. And what did they do? All they did was put incredible rush on Brady, so he didn't have any time to throw, and the Patriots didn't really do anything. And I just finished Michael Hawley's new book, War Room, about the Patriots, and they talked a lot about the draft failures, particularly Lawrence Maroney and Chad Jackson.
Well, Maroney wasn't bad.
Well, they said the problem wasn't the talent. They said both guys had plenty of talent. The problem was the effort. And they said Troy Brown and Harrison would go to these guys and say, look, you got to work harder. You've got an incredible physique. You can run. You can catch the ball. And they said they just didn't care. So it makes you wonder. You want to play at the highest level of professional sports, and you don't have any attitude. So maybe you're better off to have, another guy who's so motivated. We were in North Attleboro a couple of years ago and watching a boys' game before our game. The assistant coach on the other side is Teddy Bruschi. There is no way that I wasn't bigger than Teddy Bruschi on that day. So Bruschi looked like he was about 5'11" and 170. So obviously lost a lot of weight. Whatever, stop lifting, stop eating, stop taking vitamins. But, so the player who wants to be great does more to become more. That's the kind of guy you want.
Well, that's why Belichick likes Richards. But the thing with Richards is, and I listened to an expert talking about him, they said he's very smart. He has everybody in the right position. He knows the plays, but he's not a great athlete. So he says, for picking him, and he goes, not many teams would have picked him there. We were thinking more 4th and 5th round. So he would have been a great pick there, knowledgeable guy, but a guy that can't cover the field, as a safety, you got to be able to cover the field.
Well, in Foxborough this week, a couple of old Patriots coming by, Brandon Spikes and Fletcher. So maybe a couple of old linebackers are going to be coming back on lower salaries.
Yeah, I like Fletcher a lot because he could do everything, cover the backs coming out of the backfield.
Kept getting hurt a lot.
Yeah, he got hurt a lot. Then he went to Miami for a while, didn't he? I don't know.
Where was he? Was in, I think he was in Tampa last year.
Tampa?
which is, Tampa was a bad team, but he played in all 16 games last year. He started in 4. So Dane Fletcher, we'll see whether he signs. Obviously, for these guys who are bouncing around from team to team, it's about the money too. So if the Patriots make a competitive offer, maybe they have a shot.
But another thing I heard about cornerbacks, that Belichick may be waiting because a lot of teams cut good cornerbacks that have a high payroll, high salary cap hit. So if you may see 1 or 2 of them go. Who are they going to sign with? They'll sign with the Pats, knowing that they'll be starting a cornerback. So that's another thing that you got to wait until the cuts come during the exhibition season. They'll definitely grab a cornerback there.
Well, I hate to say this, but right now I'd probably rather watch AAU ping pong than the Red Sox. And today, in an uncharacteristically rapid move, they elected to fire pitching coach Juan Nieves. Now, in 2013, when the Red Sox won the World Series, they had the lowest ERA they'd had in over 10 years at 3.79 and led the league in strikeouts. So obviously, Nieves got stupid in the last year, and the Red Sox brilliant starting staff, which has I think 4.84 ERA team and 5.54 or 5.56 ERA for the starters, cost Nieves his job.
And that's amazing. And how many games have they played? And he
27, I think.
And he loses his job after 27 games because they give him a pitching staff like that. Buckholz is so inconsistent because of I still say it's his upper back and his shoulder that causes him the big-time problems. He used to overthrow, and I know that bothers him at times. So that's sometimes, I bet you it starts aching on him, and then he lets up on his fastball, can't throw his slider as hard, and I think that's still a problem there.
Well, and you see, the way it works in professional sports or in college, for example, if you go to college and you have 2 kids, one kid's been recruited, scholarship player. If both kids are the same, the scholarship player is going to get every chance to succeed. So when Shane Victorino gets healthy, if he ever gets healthy, he'll be out there. Right now, with Ramirez hurt, who's out in left field? Alan Craig. Craig has shown nothing that he can hit in the American League. Last year, sub 130. This year, about 160. The guy's got nothing. I don't know what happened to him. He was a productive player, but the Red Sox are going to put him out there, hope that dollars and history are going to come through. But, he just can't get around on the fastball right now.
How's Castillo doing?
Castillo is back playing in Pawtucket. He had his first game back. He had 2 hits, and he's looking okay.
They'll be bringing him up. Maybe they'll wait a while till he gets back into the swing of things.
They got rid of Alvarado, who had nothing. They finally got rid of Mujica, who had nothing. Masterson's throwing 85-mile-an-hour fastballs. Yeah. He shouldn't be out there starting.
But you're not talking about what I talked about 2 shows ago, and we talked about it, and I said, everybody's saying, just like they're doing, they Sox signed Gonzalez and Crawford. I said the same thing back then. I said, the Red Sox fans, they don't understand what they have. They don't have, these players aren't as good as they think they are, and the lineup isn't as good. 2 shows ago, what did I tell you when the season was just starting? Their lineup's not as strong as everybody's saying.
You have to wonder when Father Time catches up with Ortiz. He hasn't done very much so far. He's hitting about 250 plus the shift. I mean, I have no problem with teams shifting. If you have to, as a hitter, adjust. So if they want to put 8 players on one side of the field, well, don't hit it there.
You're thinking about making a rule where you have to keep 2 on each side. I don't think they were talking about that.
That's what, so they can have more offense? Your job is to hit the ball where they ain't, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that would be a bad rule. You move the shot. If you want to move the shortstop behind second, as long as he's not on the other side of second. My feeling is that he's a shortstop. So play shortstop. Don't play right center. You're a second baseman. You play second base. I mean, I don't see that's a problem. I think that rule is going to be changed. I think you only can have 2 on each side of the infield. I mean, I think that's the way it should go. You got a pull hitter. You got a guy, all his life has been learned how to swing, be a power hitter, okay, through high school and whatever. He gets drafted, and all of a sudden he's going into the pros, and they're playing 3 people on the same side of the infield to defend against him. I mean, just think about it. I don't think there's anything wrong with that rule saying you only can have 2 on each side.
Well, I just think that you can line defend. It's like saying, well, you can't play the hitter way over toward the line. Or
Yeah, but no, it isn't. But what is a power hitter going to do? Power hitter going to do? How's he going to change?
You better hit it out of the park then.
No, but I mean, that's, to me, I think that rule would be a good rule. You only can have 2 on each side. If you want to move the shortstop over behind second, as long as he doesn't go to the other side of second.
I guess as a pitcher, I want to put the fielders where I think they're going to hit the ball. Now, Hanley Ramirez, unfortunately, ran into the wall. He caught the ball, ran 3 steps.
I think he ran into the wall on purpose myself.
I mean, a better outfielder would have slid or fallen down or done something so they wouldn't have crashed into the wall.
And it's bad there, too.
Yeah,
you see the
but he's had a couple operations on that shoulder, and supposedly he's day-to-day. Day-to-day nowadays always translates into disabled list.
I mean, look at their lineup. How could people say they're one of the best hitting teams in baseball? Look at the lineup. Just go down it. Thank God they have Betts, because Betts, to me, even though his average is low, I think he's going to be one of the best hitters in baseball. Another year or two.
The thing about right now, anybody who's watching the games, middle in, Betts will kill you. They're going to have to work him away because he's really death on inside pitches. But it's right. It's not like what you see on television is what the same thing everybody sees. But it's like when people come up, the first thing they say is, we're going to challenge him with a fastball. He could hit 5 in a row out of the ballpark, and they say, well, he hasn't proven it to me. Because baseball players are often thick-headed. So, and I can speak of having played many years in baseball. So trick people. It's okay if you throw off-speed stuff and curveballs and they can't hit it. That's what happens to guys who come from the National League and see all this breaking stuff.
But no, it really bothers me in sports, though, when they say someone's in a slump or not hitting as well, or whatever sport, because he's got a bad wrist. Or he's got this is bad, or that's bad. I mean, that's a joke. The thing about Pedroia, now he's hitting good. When he started off hitting a couple of homers, and they said now his wrist is fine. He's back down to hitting 270-something. But Pedroia's he's getting closer to the plate. He's now a little closer than last year. I know you've been hearing this almost every show by him. But watch him. When he's covering the plate, gets those pitches, more inside pitches, because he's covering the plate better. He's going to drive the ball. It's not his wrist.
Well, one of the issues about the Red Sox is this is sort of a couple. We never hold the players accountable. So Napoli had surgery, hit the cover off the ball in spring training, and now he's 160 during the season. Now, I don't know why he can't hit. I'm presuming he's going to be able to hit. But what Peter Gammon said when the performance-enhancing drug testing era came in is a lot of players in their mid-30s are going to start looking like they used to in their mid-30s because their quickness, their strength is going south. And it's hard to know anymore. I mean, you watch a guy, how much of a sample size is enough to say a guy's lost it? I'm not willing to say Napoli's lost it yet. Craig, I'm not so sure.
Yeah, look at how the Yankees have got burnt over the years. With Giambi, he was on steroids. He goes to the Yankees. He goes off it. He doesn't do much for them. Teixeira now, he's still hitting with some power, but his average is down 200 now. He was up near 300 all those years before the Yankees got him. Well, a lot of those players are on steroids who we don't even know about.
And the other part of the equation is, who else is responsible? Is Charrington responsible because he's actually making the decisions and has brought this mediocre pitching staff along? Or is it somebody else like Larry Lucchino who's telling Charrington what he can and can't do? I don't know.
I don't know how much Lucchino's involved nowadays, though. Who's the other guy? Gorman? Some guy?
Oh, Silver, I think? I don't know.
But he's not involved as much as he used to be. And I think a lot of it's coming from Henry, too, about the Lester and all that. If Henry wanted Lester would be on the team now, who's struggling now for Chicago.
We have one good outing. He threw a shutout his last time out, but he hasn't been great. And obviously, we've already recounted the issue about Lester throwing to first base and how he can't. I'm sure he's working on it, but that's a mental thing.
But the thing with the Red Sox, again, the fans in the Red Sox, it's funny, the Boston fans, I think they know more about hockey and basketball and football than they do. I don't know if the Red Sox fans really are that intelligent when it comes to baseball. I mean, again, you go through the years and they think, how could they think this is a great lineup? I mean, Bogart's not going to be a big hitter. He's going to be a 240 hitter all his career.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. He hit better at times during the warm weather. I'm not ready to give up on him. He's a young kid. Now, another issue that's come up is that a lot of the pitchers seem not to have a very good clue, especially Joe Kelly. I mean,
He doesn't have control on.
back in the day, in Jim Bouton's book, Ball 4, they were talking, the pitching coach was saying, well, no problem. You throw 2 hard fastballs inside corner up, you're up 0-2, and then you just throw a slider on the outside, you get them out. The pitcher says, if I could do that, I could get everybody out.
But maybe he throws a little too hard because his fastball, he doesn't have good control of his fastball.
Right. You have to have command of the strike zone. Most pitchers, if you're a right-handed pitcher, the natural corner for you is the inside corner to a right-handed batter. And if you're a left-handed pitcher, the natural corner is the outside corner to a right-handed batter. And you'll see people, very few pitchers can control both sides of the plate. The Glavins, the Maddoxes, now granted they had the big strike zone. Jim Palmer was the best I ever saw growing up, controlling the inside and outside. Palmer never gave up a grand slam during his entire career, which is close to miraculous. But most of the Red Sox pitchers, they just seem to throw the ball inside, and that's all it is.
Well, most of them don't throw it hard. Kelly throws it hard, but most of them, you know, I mean, they don't. Masterson throws a fastball at 87 miles an hour. Are you kidding me? He does have that nice slider against righties, but imagine him pitching.
Well, they just load up the lineup with lefties against Masterson, and that was the book on him coming here. So, I mean, he's supposedly the world's nicest guy, and his wife is supposed to be really nice too.
Yeah, he is a good guy.
So, I mean, you know, I'm not bad-mouthing him as a person.
Bullpen run.
Oh, right. You know,
long relief.
It's hard to see people when you're only facing people one time. Sometimes you can get by with less stuff, but if you have to face them 3 times, you need to have more stuff, and that's, you know, what the Red Sox are doing. They're probably going to bring up Matt Barnes. They'll probably bring up Eduardo Rodriguez, who's probably top.
Yeah, Barnes is supposed to be coming up.
Yeah, so, you know, if you watch Kansas City last year, they went to the World Series. What did they have? They had pretty good starters that could get you through 6 innings, and then they had lights-out bullpen, which the Yankees have right now.
How about the pitching the Yankees are getting starting in? Even Sabatia's terrible.
Well,
I mean, the rest of them are pitching good.
Well, Betances and Miller have been great. Miller, you know, we'll see how it goes over the long pull with him as a closer. But they could always flip-flop him. And flip-flop him and Betances. Betances is great. I mean, there's not enough you can say about him. Well, another interesting case is the case of Josh Hamilton. Josh Hamilton went to the California Angels for huge money, and then this year he got off the wagon, back onto drugs, and he didn't get a suspension because he said, yeah, I'm back on drugs. And the Players Association backed him up. So basically the Angels traded him for a bucket of baseballs to Texas. They gave him to him because they didn't want him around. And Texas has to pay a little bit of his salary, but not so much. It seems to me that if you have drug testing and you fail it, you can't say, well, yeah, okay, I admit that I'm taking drugs, so I'm throwing myself on the mercy of the Players Association, which is going to stand up for you every time.
You got to think ahead. Like, the Angels really blew it by signing him, giving him all the 20-something million a year, whatever he's getting.
Well, they have Pujols too. I
know. I mean, just knowing that, you know, the problems he was having, to give him that much money, you know, he should have stayed in Texas where he is. Where, you know, again, Texas. I mean, what are they paying him? $2.5 million now, Texas, and
something like that.
The Angels are paying him almost
25. Yeah. So I mean, a lot of times you have buyer's remorse. The Patriots. The Red Sox signed Pedroia like 8 years, 110, something like that. What's it going to look like the last few years of his contract? Not good. A-Rod missed a year. He hasn't been terrible this year. He's had, you know, a couple of good games. We'll see how it goes over the long haul.
I think he's going to wilt as the season goes on. The Yankees need. I mean, Ellsbury's been unbelievable. Gardner's been very good.
I think Gardner's better than Ellsbury.
Ellsbury's hitting almost 360.
No, I know, but not with no power. But
Gardner's real good.
Gardner's a real good player. We'll be right back. welcome back. We want to talk a little bit about coaching. We always do. And our relationship with parents. We've been really lucky because I think we've tried to build a relationship with parents and players based on transparency. Parents can come down anytime. They can watch practice. They can hear us try to educate the kids, give them little tips, big tips, off the field tips. Trust and communication. If there's an issue, no problem. Come to us anytime. And for the most part, when you have good communication and there's transparency, they don't come to you because they know what's going on. So there's no real issue.
No, and parents know if you care or not about their kid, you know, and that's a key. If they know that you really care, like I've said this a number of times, I mean, you have no pressure on you. They know the type of coach you are. You know, I like to push and push and push and demand, you know, as much as they can give, and sometimes even more. And the parents, they lay off you, they understand what you're trying to do, and they understand that you really care. So when they know that, then you're pretty well set.
Well, there was an article about Jabal Sheard from Cleveland coming to the Patriots, and he said, you go to the Patriots, they say, here's the program. You can spend as much time as you want or as little time as you want. But the more time you spend, the more studying you do, the more work you put into it, the more successful you're going to be. He said, I'm a professional, but nobody's ever treated me like that before and really given me a chance and said, here's the program. You have a chance to make yourself into a better player. And I always tell the kids, I don't want you to just be a better player. I want you to be a better kid. I want you, you know, your parents make a lot of sacrifices so you can play. Time, money, you know, a lot of effort on their part. So if your parents want you to do some chores, you should do it. In fact, you should volunteer to do it without being asked. Being on the honor roll, that should be the expectation, not, well, maybe that might happen. So we expect you to take the discipline from sports and translate that into the other activities in your life. If you have piano practice to do, you got to practice the piano. That's the discipline we talked about before. Pain of discipline, pain of regret.
Yeah, I mean, what gets you, I mean, you play basketball like the team I had, you're going up against real good talent and you're competing, and as the year goes on, you're competing better and better. What prepares you better than that for life? Knowing that if you give 100%, you know, and you stay together as a team, you know, good things will happen. You don't always win, but you play some great games against great teams, and that's what it comes down to. If you know you can compete against the best, and that does wonders for you. And if the players, that's coaches, like I look at Gino Amarama. He pushes his players big time. He gets so much out of them. The great players want to go play for him because they want to become the best, and that's why he gets them. You know, and I look at middle school run, and I say all the time, there's no reason why you can't have more fun in middle school than high school. I mean, I hope you have a lot of fun in high school, but middle school isn't just, okay, we're going to prepare you for high school. Your middle school is, we're going to prepare you for the rest of your life. You know, high school may not be a pleasant experience, but I want the 3 years you're in middle school, I want it to be a great experience. And by the end of the season, as the season goes on, those kids can't wait to play in every game. Well, but you want to make the kids and the parents know that every game's a huge game.
Well, a lot of the players that we've had in the past have done very well, both academically and athletically. And I love to see the kids honor roll and drop a little note to the parents saying, I see that your daughters are on excellence. That means they've really done a great job, and maybe you could even take a little credit too.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I enjoy about coaching. I mean, I'm starting to lean, and I see, you know, not only in basketball but other sports, you know, middle school basketball it should be a great experience. You know, in some cases it may be their best experience in sports. You know, it may turn out. I hope what that does is prepares you for high school, but you never know. I mean, I want to be honest. 90% of my players come back. And I'm going to be 100% honest and tell me they had more fun playing middle school basketball than high school basketball, or middle school baseball when I coach baseball, than high school baseball. You know, I mean, and you hear that, you feel good about it, but you wish they would say, geez, I had a great experience in high school. It got me ready for high school. But it doesn't always end up that way. So enjoy whatever you're doing, even if you're playing fourth grade basketball. Enjoy it. I mean, a lot of parents wanted to prepare you for high school and stuff like that. But go through that experience. Enjoy that experience.
Well, there was an author, I think his name is Matthew Kelly, and he says that what your job is to become a better version of yourself every day. Try to make yourself better at whatever you elect to pursue. If it's academics, if it's reading comprehension, it's playing the trumpet, get better every day. And if you make little progress every day over a long period of time, it ends up being an amazing amount of progress. So that's really the key. There's an article in New York Times about helicopter parents, and it wasn't really referring to sports so much as parents who won't surrender decision-making, autonomy, self-decision-making to their kids. So the kid gets to college. They don't know how to cope with failure because they don't have someone to push them or adjust them, guide them every day. So the college president is saying, I'm getting calls from parents that their kid doesn't get along with their roommate or they don't like the teacher. This is college. You don't have a choice to choose everything and your parent's going to make it right. That it isn't going to always be that way. Sometimes you need to figure out a way to solve your own problems. I remember when my daughters went to play basketball in the AAU program in Dorchester. And some of the parents said, what if we don't like this? And the coach basically told all the parents, I don't really care what you think. If you want your daughter to play on this team, I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. There's not going to be any problems. They're going to get to be better players. And when your daughters go to college and they play basketball in college, the coach isn't going to care at all what you think.
And that's what parents want to hear too, though. If I had a coach telling me that, I mean, I was lucky with my kids. They've had some great coaches. Amanda had Chelly. Chelly made my daughter's 4 years in high school. I mean, he was a big reason why she was happy going through that whole program. He was a great coach. He treated her right. She loved playing on his teams, and the teams were good. Your daughters came through right behind them. And my son had Pappas in high school.
Right.
Another great coach.
Well, speaking of coaching, now that we're deep into the NBA playoffs, and there's all 4 series are 1 game apiece, it's pretty wide open. I was pretty surprised that Memphis beat Golden State last night. It's funny. Barkley said Steph Curry got presented the MVP trophy, and he said, what you're going to see is people feel like they have to go out and win it that night. And sometimes the shots don't fall, and you're trying to do too much, and sure enough, he was right. Yeah,
my pick was San Antonio, and the Clippers came up big.
Well, that was for a first-round series, tremendous game. The Clippers just made so many great plays, played really great defense. The key to me watching that game was the Clippers were able to have sustained pressure on the ball outside, and they didn't let San Antonio whip it around like they normally do.
But there's no great team there. There's no great team. I'm not a big fan of Golden State.
I would love to see Paul Pierce get to the finals
but Wall's
again.
out. Wall's out for the whole series now. He's out.
I didn't hear that.
He's got like 5 breaks in his right hand.
Well, so much for that.
That's what I heard today, that he's out. So that's a shame because they would have won this series.
Pierce, the old man, was really getting it done.
But I don't think they have enough now.
No, they don't.
But hopefully I'm hoping Chicago comes out, and I'm
Chicago
hoping Houston, but I don't know if Houston can beat the Clippers.
Chicago's good. They have Rose, they have Butler, who's going to be a restricted free agent, who's going to end up back in Chicago. I love Noah. We went to a game, not this season, the year before, and Noah had 13 assists. And I said to my wife, "You're never going to see that again." The center had 13 assists in this game. If he doesn't score at all, he's a huge factor. He plays with incredible energy. He is unselfish. He defends. He's one of my favorite players in the league.
Yeah, he's real good. Another thing I love about him, you know what I love about him?
No.
He hates LeBron James.
I think he hates everybody.
But how about Thibodeau against McHale? But I don't think Houston can come out. They don't have enough at guard, with Harden. They don't have that point guard that can really lead them, and I think that's going to hurt them. But I'd love to see him come out. But I got to praise Rivers for the job he's done with the Clippers.
He has.
I just thought the Clippers I thought they were a step below these other teams.
Well, without Chris Paul, they're still 1-1.
Rivers is real good.
His son has played pretty good basketball.
Yeah. And then you know how I felt about him coming out of Duke.
And
I liked him a lot.
I think he'd be a senior right now in college if he were still in college. But excellent player. really could take the ball to the hoop. And
I mean, I always loved his game, and how, now playing for his father, hopefully he can just keep coming.
well, it'll be interesting to see. He's a free agent. See what,
Well, he'll sign with them again.
get a hometown discount from
Especially if they go to the finals.
Well, we'll see. And Blake Griffin's been terrific.
Oh.
His shots really improved a lot.
It's amazing. I thought he was really good, but not this good.
Yeah, it's
The 14 assists the other day.
yeah.
But it's been fun. I like that. And
So
hockey is
Every
hockey.
series is good. Now, as for the Celtics, I don't know how the rebuild is going to go. They supposedly have over $20 million in freed up money, so they potentially could compete for. I mean, they're talking DeMarcus Cousins. I don't know.
Would it be funny if Love signs with them after what
Oh, he'll
happened?
never sign with them. He's going to go to LA.
Yeah, I kind of hope he does, because they need someone big. They need someone who can dominate down low. With the team they have now, if they can get Cousins, someone like him, guy that can dominate down low, they could beat a team like Cleveland next year.
Well, they're going to try to get Rondo back because they don't have to pay him playoff money. Rondo, the players were given a sheet of who to vote shares for in Dallas for the playoffs, and Rondo's name wasn't on the sheet. So they didn't not vote him playoff shares. They weren't given a choice.
Yeah, the players didn't even want anything to do with him. But what did we say? I said, when will the Dallas fans realize when they made the deal?
Well, I think the big issue is what are the Celtics package together? Can they package? I mean, I understand that you're not a huge Smart guy, and they maybe could get something for him. I like Smart and Bradley.
Smart and Sullinger.
Well, Sullinger, the problem with him is he's only got a one-year deal.
Yeah,
so
but you know how I feel about Bradley. Bradley is good if he doesn't have to think the game out.
yeah,
Bradley is good without the ball, pull-up jump shot, plays pretty good defense, but plays stupid defense at times. He'll get all over someone and foul them. You know he's going to foul them.
well, he's like a number 4 guy. He's not a top 3 player.
But he's athletic. Again, playing with Thomas, though. Thomas has the ball a lot. Thomas is a perfect player to play with in regard to Bradley. That's the perfect guy. Bradley cannot play with Smart.
No.
Because Smart can't make things easy for Bradley. Thomas can make things easier. And Bradley can hit that pull-up jump shot. He's quick.
What you see all the time in the NBA, if you watch the spread offenses they have, and if anybody who's watching the playoffs, 50% of the time and most of the time in crunch time, you're going to see spread pick and roll. So you're going to have 2 players in the corner, 1 player out high on the opposite side, and a high ball screen where the point guard takes it off the center at the top of the key. Everybody does it, and so the center either pops out for a pick and pop, or if the guard drives, they get help and they dish to the corner, a guy shoots a 3. It's every single play. So anybody who's watching basketball has got to be watching the spread pick and roll. You say, like, well, how come they can't defend it? Because the players are that good. It's hard to defend.
You know, the player that's going to be real good next year, and you think I'm crazy, is Olynyk.
I know, you're a big Olynyk guy.
I tell you, he's going to be tremendous next year. If I was his coach, if I were Danny Ainge, I would say, listen, you got to get in with an instructor.
You got to weight room.
You got to work on your quickness, and then you got to work on little jump hooks in the lane, pull up jump shots tall in the lane, not from here. You got to work on that all summer. I want you to come back in tremendous condition because he has it all. He can shoot the ball.
I know, but
he can pass it. He sets great picks. He handles on defense the pick and roll really well. He closes down the gaps.
I know you had this sort of baby Dirk in mind, and I see him more like the Rafe LaFrance, Travis Knight guy who wants to shoot threes, who's 7 feet tall.
But I think if they work with him right, Ron, it's not etched in stone that these general managers really know everything. I mean, like my thing about Pedroia, you mean to tell me a batting coach can't correct that with him? Work on that. And Olynyk working on his quickness in the lane, tall jump shots, not from here, but tall, little jump hook. You mean to say they don't know enough to tell him, I want you to work like Larry Bird every year in the summer?
Right. We talk all the time about player development and buy-in. You have to convince the player that you can make them a better player so they can make more money, and then they'll buy into whatever your program is. Stevens got to the final 2 twice with not so much talent. But it's in the NBA. There's too much talent on the other teams. You can't outcoach the team in a long series. In an individual game, you can do that.
Well, that's why Thomas helps him big time, because he can play with any guard. When he's on, he's as good as any guard.
Right. He
know?
He wasn't great in the playoffs.
No, but he had that injury too, and he came back, then he started playing good. But you know what I look at, Ron, when you talked earlier about, both of us, about going through experiences, kids. What about pro sports? You go through the experiences to get better. Now, I'll tell you one guy who's going to have a great year next year. That's my prediction is Ryan, the cornerback for the Pats. The reason why he's going to have a great year, he went through those experiences this year. He safety, cornerback. He didn't want to get beat. You saw it in the Super Bowl on that touchdown at the end of the first half when he played off the receiver. And then on the last drive when he played off the receiver, it was 3rd and 10. Played off and didn't want to get beat. He's going to learn from that. What do you think they're going to work on all summer with him?
Well, I think that.
But that's what you do, Ron. You work on those things.
To digress, I think that one of the reasons they got Fletcher is he's tall. And there's so many of these teams that have these 6'4", 6'5" receivers, and it's hard for the short defensive backs to cope with that.
But it is true, though, Ron. Even the pros, you go through these experiences. Why do they get better?
No, I'm happy the Celtics got into the playoffs, and the fact that they lost is meaningless, really, because they got the experience. They were, although they really weren't that close to winning. They were winning 4 in one game with a couple points. But
all the games were close.
They played competitively.
But why did they lose the games? They couldn't rebound on the defensive boards.
Right. Thompson killed them. Yeah. So, I mean.
And then the big guy, Moskoff, whatever his name is, he killed them at times.
Right.
They didn't have anybody down low who can handle them.
And it's always tough to, it's nice to have, if you're Cleveland, the guy, the closer, the LeBron James who can take the ball to the basket no matter how much pressure you put on him, because he's just superhuman. And you just can't find those guys easily. I don't think they should give up on Young, but I'm not sure.
1 year's a big thing, though, Ron. 1 year.
No, I know. You
don't know.
He played well in the D League, and we'll see. He's a young guy. So remember, Chauncey Billups came. They drafted him. They said he's going to be nothing, and then he ended up being a really good player. So
you got to give him a chance to play. A lot of these players. Crowder's going to be. He's a good player on the team. Or Jerebko, hopefully they sign him too. He's going to get, even though he's in his late 20s.
Who are the players you're willing to move on from?
On the Celtics? I would say I would trade anyone on that team, everyone on that team but Thomas, depending on who you're going to get for them.
Okay.
The one guy I would keep, because I think Thomas could play against any point guard, in the league. When he's on, and if he was consistent there for a while until he got hurt, he's got the talent and he's got the confidence to run a team. And I think if the Celtics give him that, give him the show, let him run the show, any of those other guys I trade.
It's tough for the Celtics because 110 inches of snow later, we're not a destination city. We're not Orlando. We're not Miami.
But
LA.
Stevens, though, a lot of players would like to play for him, I bet. If they could get Leonard, here's what happens. If they get Leonard and Cousins, they're going to battle for the championship. 2 players. Who are they going to give up for that? Leonard's a free agent,
I know, but I think he'll be back in San Antonio.
Yeah, but San Antonio pretty soon is going to be losing Parker, Ginobili, and Duncan. Was he going to sign a big contract with them?
Yeah, they're aging out.
And who knows if Popovich is going to stick around long. He's got a good coach in Stevens. He may be thinking, hey, there's a good young team there. If we get him, if the Celtics sign him and they get Cousins in the deal, right there, they're back battling.
Well, if they could have a center like Omer Asik and Jimmy Butler, that would be my fantasy, the guy from the Bulls. They're not going to get him. Yeah. I've enjoyed being with you tonight. I'm Ron Sen.
And I'm Ralph LaBella, and thank you for watching Let's Talk Sports.